All right, let's get right into it. When we think about education, we usually think about, just filling our heads with facts and skills. But what if the real point of it all was something deeper? Today, we're going to explore a really interesting educational philosophy that connects academics, yep, even something like math, to the very building blocks of character and wisdom. So this whole framework we're looking at is anchored in Scripture, and it starts with this really powerful, really thought-provoking line. It sets up this fundamental choice, right? A fork in the road, not just for how we live, but for how we even approach learning itself.
And this leads us to a question that a lot of people seem to be asking. I mean, we live in a world that is jam-packed with highly educated people, and yet we see destructive choices and just a lack of peace all around us. The argument here is that something essential, something crucial is missing from the equation.
And that missing piece, according to this philosophy, is what happens when you separate knowledge from a moral compass. The core idea is pretty simple. Just being clever or knowing a ton of facts is absolutely not the same thing as being wise.
Now, this slide lays out the two paths so clearly. On one side, you've got what the source calls a carnally minded education. Think of it as just focusing on cleverness for its own sake, which it says ultimately leads to a lack of peace. But on the other side, you have a spiritually minded education, and this is all about building true wisdom, which leads to integrity and, just like the Scripture promises, to life and peace.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where we're introduced to an alternative path, a whole philosophy that's presented as the Godly Learners series. And here we get the full verse. See, that second half, that's the promise that drives this entire vision. The goal isn't just about getting good grades, it's about cultivating a mindset that truly leads to life and peace. So how do they do it? The whole vision is to weave these values directly into academics. It's not about tacking on a separate ethics class at the end of the day. No, it's about finding the moral and spiritual lessons inside every single subject, helping students build lives of integrity and then use that knowledge for good. Okay, let's see how this actually works with a real-world example. Because, it's one thing to talk about big ideas, but how does this connect to, say, a 6th grade math lesson on data? This verse right here is the bridge. The source makes this fascinating link between the spiritual principle of divine order and the very practical mathematical task bringing order to a messy set of numbers. And this just lays it out perfectly. The act of analyzing data, of looking for its center, is framed as a reflection of a much higher principle. It's an exercise in finding balance, fairness, and truth right there inside the numbers themselves. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's do a quick refresher on the two main tools for finding the center of a bunch of numbers, the mean and the median.
First up, we've got the mean, which we all know as the good old average. And I love this analogy. It's like taking the total value of everything and just spreading it out evenly among all the items.
And the calculation is super simple, right? You just add up all the numbers, and then you divide by how many numbers you have. That's it. So for example, with these youth group ages, you add them all up, you get 75. There are 5 kids, so you divide by 5, and you get a mean age of 15. Simple enough?
Now, our second tool is the median, and this one's different. This isn't about calculating value, it's all about position. It's literally the number that's sitting in the exact physical middle after you've lined everything up.
So the key here, the first step always, is to put the numbers in order, smallest to largest. Then you just find the one in the center.
In this Bible class example, the numbers are already in order for us. You look for the middle one, 1, 2, 3, it's 15. So the median is 15. Easy. Okay, so here's where it all comes together. We know how to calculate these two things, but the real lesson here isn't about the calculation, it's about discernment. This is where we make the jump from just having knowledge to what the source calls wisdom. Now, look at this data set. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, and then way out there we have 100. So the big question is, which tool, the mean or the median, is going to give us a more honest picture of where the center of this group actually is? And this table just makes the conflict so obvious. If we calculate the mean, the average comes out to 24. But does 24 really represent this group, where 4 out of the 5 numbers are 8 or less? Now look at the median. The middle number is just 6. Those are two wildly different answers. So yeah, the median is the better, more truthful measure here. That 100 is what we call an outlier, an extreme number that just drags the mean way, way up and gives you a totally distorted picture. The median, though, it's not affected by that crazy number. It stays right there in the middle, giving us a much more accurate feel for the data.
And this, right here, is the heart of the entire lesson. See, anyone can be taught to calculate a mean. That's just knowledge. But knowing that in this situation, the median is the more honest tool. That's discernment. That's wisdom. It's knowing which tool to use, and more importantly, why. And this is how a simple math problem becomes a powerful lesson in truthfulness and order.
Which brings us right back to where we started. An education that just teaches you the calculation. Without the context, you could see that as carnally minded. It's clever, sure, but it could be used to paint a misleading picture. But an education that teaches you to choose the tool that reveals the truer picture, that's spiritually minded. It's seeking clarity and truth and understanding. And that brings peace because you have a more honest grasp on reality.
So we end with this challenge. Beyond the numbers, beyond this one lesson, it's an invitation to look for the deeper principles in whatever you're studying. It's asking, how can you go after not just knowledge, but the wisdom, the truth, and the order that bring real, lasting understanding to everything you learn?